Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're an executive or a business leader today, you know the feeling. That immense, almost crushing pressure of rapid technological change, right? Economic disruption, AI, cloud computing, remote work. It is a lot, and it is happening so fast. But what if I told you that this disruption is actually the greatest strategic turning point your organization will ever face? That's what we're getting into today. We're going to explore how to take all that chaos and turn it into a sustainable business advantage. We'll be breaking down a really comprehensive report on digital transformation and translating its core insights into a clear, actionable roadmap.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've got a highly structured roadmap for our explainer today. We are going to start with the disruption catalyst, then move into the transformation myth, explore the 5 stages of maturity, unpack the innovation engine, and finally, lay out your implementation roadmap.
So let's kick things off with Section 1, the disruption catalyst, and exactly how we turn a crisis into real momentum.
Just think back to the recent pandemic. It literally forced years of technological change into mere months. It proved that with a little urgency, we can move incredibly fast. And this highlights our first major takeaway. Transformation should absolutely begin during uncertainty, not after the crisis has passed. Seriously, waiting for the dust to settle? That's just a recipe for obsolescence. Because here's the thing. Disruption exposes the weaknesses you already had. Those slow decision cycles, the fragmented systems, totally manual processes, yeah, those. By acting early and proactively, using that disruption as a catalyst, you can redesign how you operate and how you serve your customers. You turn reactive panic into forward momentum. Because if you delay, you're just going to be forced into expensive, urgent changes later on, right when your competitors have already pulled way ahead.
And that brings us right to Section 2, the transformation myth. We really need to stop thinking of this as just some IT project.
Thinking of this as just an IT project is honestly the core reason so many of these initiatives fail right out of the gate. The huge myth here is that transformation simply equals buying technology. But the reality, true transformation requires business reinvention. Here's the hard executive truth, and you might want to write this down. If you take a poor, inefficient process and simply automate it, well, all you've really done is make your inefficiency faster. You aren't just buying cloud platforms or data analytics tools, you are fundamentally changing your business model. The technology is just the enabler, it's not the transformation itself. It is only useful if it actually helps your organization improve how it creates value and makes decisions.
So, to avoid that whole IT-only trap, you have to align 4 completely interconnected dimensions. First up, business strategy. This defines your core purpose. Second is the operating model, literally how the actual work is structured and delivered. Third, the technology architecture, the platforms and tools themselves. And finally, organizational culture. This one is huge because it determines whether your people will actually adopt these new ways of working. When these 4 pillars are in sync, that's when transformation becomes a true, powerful enterprise capability. But when they're disconnected, well, that's when you see massive, incredibly expensive IT spending with absolutely zero meaningful business change.
All right, let's shift gears to Section 3, the 5 stages of maturity, or what we like to call the climb to the ecosystem.
Organizations generally move from rigid foundations to fluid ecosystems through 5 distinct stages. Stage 1 starts with the foundation, just digitizing your basic processes. Then comes Stage 2, siloed innovation, where individual teams experiment, but it's totally fragmented. So, for example, maybe your finance team is highly automated, but customer service is completely manual. Stage 3 is enterprise strategy. This is where leadership finally steps in and aligns those silos into a company-wide priority. Then, Stage 4 is the new business model, where you actually use these capabilities to create totally new value. And finally, Stage 5, continuous reinvention, where the organization can literally disrupt itself over and over again. As a leader, your priority has to shift at each stage, moving from creating a reliable baseline infrastructure early on, all the way to building a culture of ongoing innovation from the very top.
But as you climb those stages, keep this in mind. Simply launching a new platform or running a few workshops, that doesn't prove you've transformed anything. Success has to be measured by concrete outcomes. We're talking speed, quality, productivity, customer satisfaction, and revenue. Oh, and you are absolutely going to face resistance. It's human nature. But remember, resistance is often just employees trying to protect stability and their existing performance expectations. So don't treat them as obstacles. Educate them, involve them, so they become a core part of the solution rather than protectors of the old system.
Okay, let's head into Section 4, the innovation engine, and how we balance stability with disruption. So how do you actually balance stability and disruption in the real world? Well, what's really interesting here is this 70-20-10 model. It is a brilliant way to think about balancing your resources. Roughly 70% of your effort goes to just running the current business. 20% supports continuous improvement, and that remaining 10%, that has to be dedicated to disruptive innovation. Now, the exact percentages might shift a bit depending on your industry, but the principle is vital. If you only focus on current operations, you're going to become obsolete. But if you only focus on disruption, you undermine your core business entirely. You have to intentionally allocate and fiercely protect that vibrant 10% slice of transformational ideas, or the urgent daily operational fires are just going to consume all of your organization's capacity.
And here's a little secret. You actually don't have to build all of this internally. Smart organizations build external ecosystems. By partnering up with technology partners, startups, consultants, venture capital networks, and even universities, you can solve real capability gaps without relying completely on your own internal budget. If you need cloud migration support, or customer research, or maybe an innovation lab, tap into an ecosystem. Start small, prioritize those high-value use cases, and collaborate. It allows your transformation to accelerate even when financial pressure is really tight.
Finally, we reach Section 5. Your implementation roadmap. This is where we translate strategy into real action.
Let's walk through this sequential timeline. Phase 1 is diagnose. You need to honestly assess your maturity, your pain points, and your cultural readiness. Phase 2 is prioritize. Pick a small number of high-impact use cases. Seriously, don't try to boil the ocean here. Phase 3 is design your target processes. Phase 4 is absolutely crucial. Pilot. You've got to test your solutions in controlled environments just to gather real feedback. Phase 5 is scale, taking those successful pilots across the wider business. And Phase 6 is optimize, based on actual performance data. This agile kind of execution is critical. Small experiments and fast learning will drastically reduce your risk compared to some massive, terrifying multi-year launch.
Now, to govern that timeline effectively, you need a balanced measurement matrix. You can't just track IT delivery. You've got to measure financial impact, like cost reduction, operational performance, like cycle time, customer value, like retention, employee adoption, looking at things like active usage and change readiness, and finally, innovation health, which tracks your learning velocity. Having strong governance using a balanced approach like this ensures that your cross-departmental efforts are actually creating value across the board, rather than just evolving into a bunch of disconnected vanity projects. Of course, with all of this, there are risks, and you absolutely must mitigate them proactively. To avoid unclear scope, make sure you define your outcomes before you execute a single thing. To avoid that technology-first thinking we talked about, mandate that every tech initiative is linked to a very specific business problem. Establish really strong data governance so your AI and analytics actually have reliable data to work with. You've got to embed cybersecurity from day one, no exceptions. And to prevent change fatigue and ease that budget pressure, fund your transformation as a portfolio. Sequence your initiatives carefully and strip away low-value work so your teams actually have the breathing room and capacity to adapt.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to internalize this one core message. Digital transformation is not a one-time program. It's just not. It is a long-term management discipline. True success means continuously challenging your own outdated assumptions. It means investing in your people and fiercely protecting your innovation capacity. It's really all about combining intense operational discipline with bold experimentation to prepare your organization for a world that is changing faster than ever. So I'm going to leave you with a somewhat provocative question to reflect on. Is your organization simply reacting to disruption, just scrambling to catch up, or are you actively engineering a living ecosystem that is designed for continuous reinvention? The choice you make today is going to define your competitive advantage tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this roadmap helps you build a more resilient, innovative future for your business.